The story begins in a world of swords and magic, known as Heroes Continent. This realm is engulfed in a colossal war, ignited by the Demon Queen's all-out assault on every race. Leveraging her immense power, the Demon Queen's army swiftly conquered empire after empire, their victories as effortless as cutting through butter. Only the human race remained defiant. However, internal strife and rebellion weakened their empire, leaving it vulnerable to the Demon Queen's final blow. With the human empire's fall, she secured her title as the most powerful Demon Queen in history, Elizabeth, and became the sole ruler of the world. Yet, amidst the chaos, an old man named Barrow, a remnant of the human empire, declares, "Elizabeth, do not believe your victory is absolute. The future will bring forth a hero to defeat you, just as legends foretold." At that moment, while kicking him down, human Prince Whis Malfoy tells Teacher Barrow to get things straight, saying that Her Majesty is not asking for his opinion but giving an order. Barrow responds by calling it nonsense, accusing Malfoy of being a patricide-committing, enemy-welcoming traitor of the human race, and lamenting that he had raised Malfoy as if he were the prophesied hero in vain. Malfoy transforms his hand into a different mode, claiming that Barrow is full of nonsense and threatening to let Barrow join his useless father. In the midst of this, Demon Queen Elizabeth intervenes, commanding Malfoy to stay his hand. She addresses Barrow, asking him to explain what he meant about the future hero standing by his side and the Queen's defeat. Elizabeth warns that if he doesn't explain, she has 1,000 ways to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Barrow declares that the prophecy states the reign of the demon race will end when the prophesied hero pulls out the holy sword. He reveals that the holy sword is embedded in the stone platform in the main hall, and asserts that he will never betray the human race by divulging more information. As he stammers, the holy sword, Alpha, becomes visible next to Demon Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth, intrigued, comments that the legends say the hero gains the right to challenge her by pulling out the sword. She expresses her anticipation for the hero's arrival. Time progresses under Elizabeth's reign: the first year, the second year, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and then the 15th year. During this time, demons engage in everyday activities. One demon greets another, Peter, mentioning the quality of the magic beef in his shop and asking for continued patronage, to which Peter responds positively, acknowledging the high praise for the shop's ingredients. Another demon expresses concern about being late for an audition for a male lead role. Under Elizabeth's absolute rule, past practices and inequalities among the races were abolished, leading to equal standing and peaceful coexistence. Heroes' continent began to thrive and flourish without disputes. Due to fear of losing this rare peace, an anti-hero alliance emerged, resolutely rejecting the arrival of the prophesied hero. In the next scene within the Demon Empire, formerly the Human Empire, Demon Queen Elizabeth inquires about any news regarding the prophesied hero. Twillia, the Chancellor of the Elf race, reports that all the tree insects have been mobilized to search, but they found no information about the hero. Heimerdinger, the Chancellor of the Dwarf race, admits that dwarves are not adept at gathering information, but no suspicious activity has been noted from any weapon stores. Aristotle, the Chancellor of the Human race, expresses confidence that even if the prophesied hero appears, standing against them will be futile, so there is no need to worry. Jim, the Chancellor of the Demon race, quietly informs Aristotle that he might not be aware since he is new, but Her Majesty is not afraid of the prophesied hero. Instead, she eagerly anticipates his arrival. To prepare for the prophecy, Her Majesty has gathered and researched all sorts of ancient books on magic and war tactics. Chancellor of the Beastmen race, Moogle, whispers that as long as Her Majesty wills it, she could annihilate Heroes Continent in an instant. Twillia, Chancellor of the Elf race, blames Barrow, calling the prophecy nonsense and declaring that with Her Majesty ruling, they are fortunate and can simply let the prophesied hero die. Barrow Smith, now the president of the Demon Queen fan club and the Anti-Prophesied Hero Association, fervently chants to reject the hero and support the reign of Her Majesty the Demon Queen. An old man remarks that speaking of Barrow he appears, continuing his chant. Demon Queen Elizabeth demands an explanation from Barrow Smith about the whereabouts of the prophesied hero. Barrow nervously suggests that the prophecy does not necessarily have to be accurate, and that the target, like Her Majesty, could exceed the expectations of the prophecy. Whis Malfoy supports this, saying it is a great offense to apply the prophecy to Her Majesty, and that she should not take offense. He mentions having new findings recently, But Elizabeth dismisses him with a strike, telling him to leave. Malfoy quickly complies, understanding her command. Demon Queen Elizabeth, expressing frustration, declares that she has reached the peak of the world and holds its power, eagerly waiting for the legendary hero to challenge her and use her as a stepping stone to fame. She explains that she has studied all the ancient magic books of Heroes' continent and, after countless hardships, created doomsday magic specifically for this challenge. Yet, the hero is nowhere to be seen, and she demands to know where he is. Approaching the Holy Sword, Elizabeth decides that since the hero isn't coming to her, she will go to him. Jim and Twillia react in shock, trying to dissuade her, but Elizabeth is resolute. Heimerdinger, in a panic, calls for cover, while Twillia can't believe that the Demon King is really going to pull out the Holy Sword. Elizabeth effortlessly pulls out the sword, mocking the idea that only the legendary hero could do it, and uses abyss magic to create forced teleportation. As Whis Malfoy runs towards her, begging to continue serving her and calling her his master, Elizabeth vanishes, leaving him behind. The scene shifts to Newbie Village, where the legendary hero, wiping sweat from his brow, reflects on the peacefulness of farming. He introduces himself as Leping, an ordinary office worker in reality, living a dull life, not interested in playing games or watching anime. His only pleasure was watching his favorite short videos on his way to work. He then starts explaining the correct way of fertilizing, beginning with pickling sour bamboo shoots and detailing the process of making luocefen. He also tends to a rabbit suffering from heat stroke, taking it to the river. Leping expresses his envy for the peaceful life he now leads, wishing he could have lived like this earlier. Under the guidance of the newbie system, he learned basic survival skills in this new world, which aligns perfectly with his desired pastoral life. He feels much healthier compared to his previous life. The system then informs him that he has met the conditions to leave the newbie village and encourages him to start his adventure. Leping, feeling reluctant, questions why he has to leave the newbie village, believing everything is fine as it is. The system responds by explaining that after leaving the village, he will meet various people in the world who can teach him skills in sword and magic, allowing him to become the legendary hero and kill the Demon King. The system insists he start his adventure, emphasizing that killing the Demon King is the player's mission. Leping protests, expressing his desire to stay and continue living peacefully, but the system firmly rejects this idea. It reiterates that killing the Demon King is the mission, and warns that the later he leaves the newbie village, the higher the difficulty in defeating the Demon King will be. The system continues to urge him to start his adventure, highlighting the treasures and encounters he could gain as a legendary hero. Despite his reluctance, the system repeatedly prompts Leping to begin his journey. Leping reflects on how the system kept urging him to leave the newbie village and start an adventure, but besides nagging, it couldn't force him to do anything. He dismisses the idea of fighting the Demon King, preferring to live peacefully forever. He explains that the village is protected by a special time barrier called the Ulme Barrier, which hides it completely and allows him to experience more than 24 hours a day, giving him ample time to do what he loves: farming, hunting, foraging, and meditating. Despite not knowing anything about swords or magic, Leping is content because those skills aren't important for his chosen lifestyle. By exchanging points from newbie tasks, he slowly builds his ideal pastoral home from scratch. One day, the system, exasperated, exclaims that in this world of sword and magic, all he does is farm, ignoring its suggestions completely. The system laments that Leping is not living up to the role of a legendary hero, only using newbie points to get maintenance tools without learning any sword skills or magic. It complains that its various adventure assistance functions have no room to play, expressing its frustration, and even wishing for Leping's demise at the hands of the Demon King. One day, the system suddenly crashes and disappears, which Leping finds quite satisfying. He then thinks about his busy day, feeling hungry and realizing that he's running low on firewood. He decides to gather some first, and remembers he forgot to bring Dazhuang back from the woods after chopping wood that morning. As he contemplates this, he notices that it's about to rain heavily, and his clothes and dried fish are at risk. At that moment, Demon Queen Elizabeth appears, declaring that she has found the legendary hero. Leping, distressed by the sudden rain and the potential loss of his belongings, runs frantically, while Elizabeth keeps her gaze fixed on him. Leping quickly retrieves his clothes and fish, breathing a sigh of relief that he managed to save them from the rain. He then notices Wang Kai, his electronic pet dog, and tells it to stop and hurry back inside because of the impending rain. Seeing Elizabeth in the sky, Leping asks Wang Kai what that thing in the sky is. Elizabeth, descending, reprimands him for addressing her inappropriately. Leping apologizes, claiming he didn't see her clearly earlier. Elizabeth decides to verify something, prompting Leping to question what she means. Suddenly, the Holy Sword Alpha appears in Leping's hand. He is startled, wondering why the sword has suddenly flown into his hand and questioning what is happening. As he is certain that the sword's recognition must be accurate, Elizabeth thinks to herself that the magic sensing ability of the Holy Sword Alpha is so low that even ordinary soldiers surpass it. She wonders if the sword is hiding its true power. She then declares that as the strongest demon queen in history, she will completely obliterate Leping. Leping is startled to realize that the demon queen is here despite his never having left the newbie village. His robotic dog begins to bark aggressively at Elizabeth, further alarming Leping, who shouts for the dog to be quiet and not provoke her. Elizabeth uses abyss magic, casting extinction. Leping comes to the realization that, as the system had said, the meeting between the hero and the demon queen is inevitable. Even though he has never left the newbie village, he resigns himself to the situation, saying that there is nothing more to be done. Leping, laughing and accepting his fate, reflects on how he has been a newbie until now, and with the final boss arriving, there's nothing left but to accept his destiny. He feels content with the happy times he has spent in the newbie village and resolves to return everything to zero with his home. He heads inside his house and locks the door. Outside, a surprised demon queen Elizabeth wonders what Leping meant with his smile. From Isabella's perspective, Leping defiantly challenges her, telling her to come at him with all she's got. In a fit of rage, Elizabeth uses her powerful magic to attack the house. However, Wang Kai, with its technical capabilities, calculates the attack and switches to battle mode. It launches a large rocket from within itself toward the demon queen. Elizabeth remarks on Leping's arrogance, assuming he relies on an advanced magical tool with awakened sentience. She declares that everything is inferior before her and decides to end things, using her apocalyptic magic, causing the earth to begin reformation. In response, Wang Kai counters with a powerful skill, halting Elizabeth's apocalyptic magic. Elizabeth dismisses this effort as futile, commanding everything to disappear along with the land, and employs her quantum mechanical black holes. However, the reaction indicates her attack was unsuccessful, leaving Elizabeth shocked and wondering how her apocalyptic magic was cracked. Inside the house, Leping, unafraid of his impending death, calmly covers himself with a blanket and lies on the bed, declaring he is ready for whatever comes next, waiting for death. Elizabeth, in frustration, descends to the ground, and Wang Kai, angered, begins to growl at her. Seeing this, Elizabeth laughs loudly, possibly finding it endearing, but then she suddenly becomes enraged. She admits to underestimating the situation and extends her wings repeatedly. Declaring that she has only used less than 30% of her power so far, she activates her demon god form and vows to show real terror, launching a powerful blast at Wang Kai. An hour later, Leping wakes up, yawning and wondering if he has already died. Realizing he is still at home, he notices the quiet outside and fears that the demon queen might be waiting for him like a maniac. He cautiously opens the door and peeks outside, only to see demon queen Elizabeth busy destroying his beloved pet, Wang Kai. Elizabeth turns to Leping and apologizes, saying she has completely destroyed the magical tool he was so proud of. Leping, nervous, suggests they sit down and talk, to which Elizabeth responds that they can do so after she kills him. She expresses disbelief that she has been pushed to her limits and questions if this is the foretold ending for her, but then she suddenly collapses unconscious on the ground. Leping, startled, rushes to her and asks if she is okay. As he approaches, he notices her clothes starting to dissipate from her body. Shocked, he exclaims in confusion. Later that night, Leping, trying to be cautious, dresses Elizabeth in one of his t-shirts, ties her hands with a rope, and lays her on his bed. Sometime later, Elizabeth regains consciousness and, thinking to herself, reflects on her humiliating defeat. She wonders why, instead of killing her, Leping chose to imprison her. She suspects that he might be doing this to show his power to the world. Elizabeth struggles to free her tied hands, giving her best effort but failing. She thinks to herself, noting the artifact binding her as another legendary class artifact she's never encountered. She curses internally, wondering how much power Leping is still hiding, and recognizing that these strange things are not simple. She realizes she has underestimated him, and that he is much more cunning than she initially thought. At that moment, Leping enters with hot food and notices she's awake. Elizabeth, defiant, tells him that if he wants to kill her, he shouldn't expect her to beg for mercy. Leping, thinking to himself, acknowledges how truly frightening the Demon Queen is. He realizes this is his only chance to survive, and knows he must seize it. Leping hesitantly suggested that they talk instead. He explained that the handcuffs were just a precaution, acknowledging how terrifying and formidable Elizabeth was. He believed there must be a misunderstanding between them, and offered to unlock the handcuffs so they could talk. Elizabeth, however, understood that he was threatening her. Leping then pointed out that from the beginning, she had misunderstood her own formidability, thinking she could challenge the hero. He told her she was absolutely wrong, and if she wanted to stay alive, she would have to fulfill his demands. Elizabeth, shocked, thought to herself about being threatened by the Demon Queen. Finally, Leping nervously unlocked her handcuffs to prove he had no ill intentions and asked her to talk as promised. Elizabeth thought to herself that the current situation was very unfavorable for her. She knew that strong individuals understood when to bend and when to stretch, so she decided to endure for now. But she promised herself that Leping would regret his arrogance later. Meanwhile, Leping turned and suggested that she take a rest. He contemplated why he hadn't killed the Demon Queen when she was unconscious. In a world of swords and magic, it was perfectly normal for the Demon Queen to possess a resurrection skill. He expressed that while he had no qualms about killing chickens and fish for soup, he could never bring himself to kill a person, even the Demon Queen. He believed that resolving the conflict between the hero and the Demon Queen didn't necessarily require killing and fighting. If he could show that he posed no threat and become her friend, he could continue to live happily. This thought made him laugh. Elizabeth felt that he was mocking her, which infuriated her. Leping then picked up his broken mechanical dog, Wang Kai, and felt a wave of sadness as he saw the mess it had become. Elizabeth questioned if the mechanical dog was Leping's most powerful magic tool. Leping, thinking to himself, considered what she meant by magic tool, since it was just something he had made out of boredom while living there. However, he decided to play along and said that Wang Kai was something he had recently developed. Elizabeth thought that it was now Leping's turn to be careless. After untying the handcuffs, she planned to secretly use abyss magic, specifically infinite magic, to recover quickly. Without the protection of his most powerful magic tool, Leping would be significantly weakened, and the balance of power would shift in her favor. Feigning sadness, Elizabeth apologized for breaking Wang Kai. Leping reassured her that it was okay since the memory card was still intact. Elizabeth thought to herself that this moment was the best time to eliminate Leping, the legendary hero. Leping explained that while the body of Wang Kai couldn't be repaired, he had made many preparations, and there was no need to worry. This revelation left Elizabeth in shock. Leping inserted Wang Kai's memory card into the body of the new robot. He commented that having a companion was fun, but since they could be mischievous, he usually only activated one at home. Elizabeth, observing Leping and Wang Kai, expressed disbelief, and then questioned the source of a particular smell. Leping explained that he had prepared some food to warm her up after she had fainted. On the table were two dishes, regular meat porridge and regular dumplings. Elizabeth dismissed the food, stating that only the weak needed to eat and that she had reached a transcendent state where such things were unnecessary. Leping thought to himself that resolving conflicts with delicious food could be effective. He urged Elizabeth to try the dishes, mentioning that they were made from vegetables and grains he had grown himself and were completely natural. Elizabeth hesitantly started eating, while Leping wondered if the Demon Queen, given her status, would appreciate the simple offerings from the newbie village. Elizabeth, as she tasted each bite, found the meat's juiciness bursting like fireworks in her mouth, revealing a natural and unadorned flavor that also contained a high concentration of magical energy. She marveled at the delicacy from this world, feeling that it was so delicious she could hardly bear to swallow the last bite. However, as she swallowed, she was struck by a powerful spiciness that left her gasping, questioning what had been added to the food. In a panic, Leping explained that he had added a bit of chili according to his taste, and wondered if the Demon Queen couldn't handle spicy food. Elizabeth, meanwhile, felt confirmed in her suspicions. She believed that the seemingly benign food was just another trick by the evil hero to use her for research experiments under the guise of hospitality. Leping, with a sense of triumph, pointed out that the century egg and lean pork congee was designed to clear heat and reduce fire. Elizabeth, after eating the congee, experienced a sense of relief and comfort, She realized that the dish, while initially seeming like a mere antidote to the spiciness, had a profound effect on her. As she savored the calming sensation, Elizabeth reflected on how the turmoil and struggle of her quest for world domination and her conflict with the hero had become inconsequential. The peaceful feeling from the kanji made her aware of how insignificant her previous ambitions seemed. She felt a sense of liberation and clarity, recognizing that she had been advancing and breaking through in unexpected ways. Elizabeth, the 3-star demon queen, was surprised to find that the food had somehow advanced her power, bringing her into a new realm of strength. As she contemplated her new state, she confronted Leping, demanding to know his true intentions. Despite her tough exterior, Elizabeth began to realize that Leping's offer was not just a ploy, but a genuine attempt to understand how a demon queen and a hero could coexist. Leping nervously suggested that they could collaborate to help her become stronger, and in turn, defeat him. He also promised to continue providing delicious food as a gesture of goodwill. Elizabeth, feeling both challenged and intrigued, was torn between her pride and the potential for growth that Leping's offer presented. She wrestled with the idea of accepting help from someone she had initially seen as a mere target. In a moment of internal conflict, Elizabeth decided to dismiss the idea, feeling it was beneath her as a demon queen to accept such an offer. Leping, confused by her response, wondered if she still intended to kill him. The situation remained tense, with Elizabeth struggling to reconcile her pride with the unexpected opportunity for advancement. Elizabeth declared that she could agree to Leping's conditions, but emphasized that her agreement was not out of fear, rather it was driven by her desire to achieve the pinnacle of strength. She warned Leping not to expect her to be submissive, or to compromise her dignity as the demon queen while staying there. She made it clear that any violation of her dignity would lead her to destroy him, regardless of the consequences. Leping, reflecting on her position, thought that fear was unnecessary since she, as the demon queen, held the power and could act as she wished. He acknowledged her demands and agreed to try to get along with her. Elizabeth then stated that if Leping wanted to conduct his research, he was welcome to do so, and if there was any delicious food, she wanted it all. Leping responded affirmatively, indicating that he understood and would comply. 1 year later, Leping found himself grappling with a complicated situation. Ever since the demon queen had forcibly entered and breached the protective barrier of the newbie village, time within the village had gradually synchronized with the outside world. The synchronization of time itself wasn't the main concern, rather, the real problem was that without the barrier's protection, the village had lost its concealment and was now exposed in the wilderness. The nearby monsters, though, seemed to be wary of approaching due to the demon queen's presence. Leping feared that once the demon queen left, the threats would become imminent. In the midst of these concerns, Elizabeth's voice rang out, reminding Leping that it was lunchtime and the meal was overdue. Leping quickly responded, acknowledging her call and hurrying to prepare the lunch. Leping realized that he needed to seek Elizabeth's protection. As he looked at her, he noticed that over the past year, Elizabeth had transformed into a noticeably chubby figure from spending her time watching TV. She complained about being tired of watching the same old recordings, and asked if he could get something new from his system. Leping informed her that the system had long since disappeared, and that lunch was ready. Elizabeth asked for a moment, and then criticized the chips Leping had given her, feeling that they made her lazier. In her mind, she suspected that the chips were laced with a slow-acting poison meant to render her helpless. Leping explained that the chips were high in calories and could lead to weight gain, which naturally made people lazier. Elizabeth, noticing her increased weight, decided to use her negative attribute conversion magic technique to shed the excess fat and regain her slim figure. Apologizing, Elizabeth explained that she had converted the accumulated fat into magic power. Leping was amazed by the versatility of magic, and Elizabeth took satisfaction in having outsmarted him. Despite her earlier complaints, she was now ready to eat, and Leping simply agreed, focusing on the meal. Elizabeth eagerly remarked that today's lunch perfectly suited her taste, and that she wouldn't hold back. Leping, concerned, reminded her to eat slowly and assured her that he could make more if needed. He thought to himself that he might be living with the demon queen for a while. Elizabeth wondered about Leping's words and imagined him saying, "You're still too weak, fatten up before I kill you." In reality, Leping continued, saying he would get dessert for her. Elizabeth, feeling insulted, thought to herself that being treated like a pig was too much and that, after breaking through more than 10 times in the past year, she should now have the power to challenge him. She demanded a decisive battle. Ping, on the other hand, cheerfully mentioned that the dessert was Elizabeth's favorite pudding. Elizabeth's mood brightened, and she eagerly asked for it. Ping reflected that fortunately, Elizabeth wasn't too difficult to manage and that the right food could easily calm her down. In the next scene, an old man is seen running while holding a girl's hand, pursued by strange members of the Dark Guild. The old man instructs the girl, Evel, to continue towards the town where it will be safe, while he holds them back. Evel protests, insisting she cannot leave him behind. The old man reassures her that he promised her mother he would protect her no matter what. As the Dark Guild's forces prepare to attack with ghost fire, the old man decides to use his strongest move. Evel, determined, refuses to leave her father and insists she will stay by his side. The old man, however, argues that she cannot handle the Dark Guild's apostles and urges her to hurry and go. The Dark Guild then launches a powerful punch at the old man, sending him crashing into a rock. Evel cries out for her father, but he insists she must leave quickly and not worry about him. The Dark Guild's members taunt him as they advance. Suddenly, a blast occurs, enveloping the area in smoke. An immortal frog appears, reporting that the danger has been cleared, and asking what to do with the two harmless humans. Wang Kai intervenes, instructing not to harm them and offering to take them back for the master to handle. Evel regains consciousness with a start, exclaiming in fear about the monster and the strange place she finds herself in. She immediately worries about her father, who is seriously injured and desperately needs treatment. Determined, she hopes he is holding on. Stepping outside, Evel is surprised to see her father, Burs, showing off his impressive muscles. Ping compliments Burs on his physique, suggesting he must have spent a lot of time training. Burs, embodying the spirit of a warrior, confirms that physical fitness is fundamental for him. Ping expresses amazement at the warrior profession from another world. Meanwhile, Wang Kai approaches Elizabeth, who angrily kicks him away, berating him for bringing back what she considers riffraff. Wang Kai whimpers in response. Ping, fascinated by Burs's physique, continues to admire him. Burs, pleased by the admiration, reveals his battle prowess, invoking his battle soul, which impresses Ping greatly. Evel, bewildered, asks her father what he is doing. Burs, recognizing Evel's voice, is relieved she is finally awake. Evel internally notes that her father is trying to please their saviors. Ping starts to explain the situation, but Elizabeth interrupts, asserting her dominance and telling Evel and her father to leave, warning them that she was there first. Ping suggested they go inside to talk, noting it was rare to have guests. Apologizing for not having anything good to offer in such a rural place, he presented them with homemade barley tea. Evel, curious, asked her father if this was the miraculous potion he had mentioned that could heal immediately. Ping laughed, explaining that was an exaggeration, and he had only given her some cold well water before. Elizabeth, watching the scene unfold, wondered what kind of evil experiment Ping had in mind by bringing back these two weak humans, feeling a pang of jealousy at the thought of not satisfying him. Burs, recalling the events, mentioned that although he was unconscious at the time, he vaguely remembered Ping's help and acknowledged that without it, he might never have seen his daughter again. Evel, seeing the tea, hesitated, asking if they could really drink such a precious thing. Ping reassured them, saying there was no need to be polite and adventurers always spoke so nicely. Finally, Burs thanked Ping for his hospitality, feeling grateful for the assistance. After Evel and her father Burs drank the barley tea, they both felt a surge of energy. Burs advanced to a 4-star archmage and 3-star archmage, while Evel became a 1-star archmage and 1-star mage. Burs expressed amazement at their magical breakthroughs, while Evel noticed that her mother's elf bloodline had awakened, causing her to grow pointed ears. They both sighed, realizing that after experiencing such advancements, nothing else seemed to matter anymore. Ping offered to pour them another cup, but Burs insisted it was enough, thinking that Ping was a godly person and they couldn't handle more of this kind of torment. Ping acknowledged their refusal, internally noting that he would love to serve them more drinks and snacks, but Elizabeth had taken them all away. He was cautious not to retrieve them, as it might annoy the Demon Queen. Elizabeth emphatically claimed everything for herself, and warned others not to touch her possessions. Ping apologized, saying he had nothing to serve them, and then asked Burs how they were attacked. Burs explained that Evel's elf bloodline was the cause. Evel added that her mother, an elf saintess, fell in love with her father and gave birth to her, but the elf race forbids intermarriage with other races. Ping was surprised, thinking it was the elves who were after them. Elizabeth interrupted, saying that the intermarriage ban between races was abolished long ago after the Demon Queen unified the world. Bur sighed and recounted that ever since Evel's mother was forced to return to the Elf Holy Land, he had taken Evel and gone into hiding. Leping inquired further, realizing that the elves had discovered their existence and sent people to catch them. He thought to himself that this situation resembled a Romeo and Juliet story from another world. Burs clarified that due to his wife's sacrifice, the elf tribe decided to spare them, but this time, the ones chasing them were envoys from the Dark Guild of the Demon Realm. Leping questioned this, which made Elizabeth angry. Leping quickly apologized. Elizabeth demanded a clear explanation about the Dark Guild in the Demon Realm and why they were capturing elves. Burs revealed that the Dark Guild was conducting mysterious human experiments to resurrect the Demon Queen who once unified the world, named Elizabeth. Evel added that the elves were being used as materials for these experiments, and even she, who had not awakened her bloodline, had become a target. She thought to herself that they had named names, and wondered why they claimed it had nothing to do with Elizabeth. Elizabeth angrily told Leping not to think she was unaware of his thoughts. Leping quickly tried to calm her down, insisting he knew and understood. Evel, confused, asked her father what they were talking about, but Burs told her to stay quiet and not be nosy. Elizabeth remarked that there had been significant changes in the world over the past year, and questioned who had told them that the Demon Queen was dead. Burs responded that the Demon Queen Elizabeth had been missing for 500 years, and if she were still alive, she would have returned to rule the world by now. Leping was shocked, realizing that Elizabeth had only been living with him for a little over a year. Elizabeth then asked if the rumor included how she supposedly died. Evel explained that, according to literature, the Demon Queen Elizabeth was killed by the legendary hero. Burs recounted that the battle between the legendary hero and the Demon Queen lasted an entire month, ending with the hero sacrificing himself to protect the hero continent and dying alongside the evil Demon Queen. Elizabeth furiously exclaimed her disbelief. Evel, still confused, asked her father about the boundary, to which Burs replied it was pure killing intent emanating from Elizabeth. Elizabeth vehemently declared the rumor to be false. Both Evel and Burs quickly agreed with her, expressing their fear. Leping then revealed that he was the legendary hero mentioned in the stories, which left Evel and Burs in shock, exclaiming, "Nani? Nani?" He further revealed that Elizabeth was the Demon Queen they had been discussing. In Elizabeth's vision, she imagined Leping mocking her, urging the others to laugh at her imprisonment. She yelled, "Enough!" and decided she would no longer entertain Leping, thinking angrily that he had saved Evel and Burs just to humiliate her. Overcome with anger, she stormed out. Burs, in a worried tone, asked Leping about his plans for dealing with them in the future. Leping admitted that he wasn't sure either, and suggested they calm down first. He thought about how Elizabeth's breaking of the time barrier had caused the chaotic and out-of-sync time in their place, leading to 500 years passing outside. Late at night, while everyone was asleep, Evel whispered that she didn't expect the truth from 500 years ago to be like this, where the Demon Queen fell in love with the legendary hero, gave up the world, and chose to hide away, much like their own situation. Burs, whispering back, told her that they had no right to compare themselves with the legendary figures, and reminded her that Mr. Leping had asked them to calm down, indicating that he might be contemplating whether to spare them or not. Evel, still whispering, questioned why Mr. Leping would save them if he intended to kill them. Burs explained that just like they had casually helped them break through to the advanced stage with the sacred tea, almost strangling them in the process, in the eyes of beings like Leping and Elizabeth, they were no different from ants. Whether they lived or died depended entirely on the mood of these powerful figures. Leping then appeared, and noticing that they were still awake, asked what they were doing up so late. Leping laughed and suggested playing cards since they were still awake. Burs, a bit confused, echoed, "Playing cards?" They all sat down to play, and Leping asked if they understood the rules. Burs replied that he roughly understood. Evel, nervous, thought that this might be Mr. Leping's test to decide their fate. Leping started dealing the cards, and Evel cautiously asked the name of the game, sensing a sinister aura from the cards. Leping pondered for a moment, thinking that landlord might be too difficult to understand for the people of this world. After some thought, he decided on a name and announced it as Dragonfight. Both Evel and Burs, startled, repeated the name in fear. Elizabeth, observing from a distance, thought to herself, "Dragonfight? What the hell does he want?" Leping explained to Burs and Evel that the game involved brave heroes joining forces to defeat a dragon, and the roles would be decided by the cards they drew. Burs interpreted this as another test. Leping began dealing the cards, reminding them to think carefully before choosing. He showed his cards first, urging them to hurry up. Burs encouraged Evel to pick her cards despite her hesitation. She reluctantly took her cards, feeling her magic power drain away. Apologizing to her father, Evel expressed her worry, but Burs reassured her, saying he would handle the rest. Leping asked if they wanted to be the dragon. Evaluating his own cards, he thought they were quite good, even having both the big and small jokers, and felt it was worth a shot. Burs and Evel, however, both expressed that they did not want to be the dragon. As the game continued, Leping strategized about his cards, hoping to draw a winning hand. He asked again if they were sure they didn't want to be the dragon, and decided not to hold back. Looking at his cards, he felt a bit disappointed. Evel, seeing his reaction, worried if Leping was dissatisfied with their performance. Leping played an 8, passing the turn to Burs. Burs, determined to pass the test, played a J, knowing that each card cost them their life force. Evel, concerned for her father, chose to pass. Leping calculated his remaining cards, considering whether to break his pair or not, realizing the potential disadvantage if he did. Ultimately, he decided to pass as well. Burs, shocked and feeling the intense pressure, contemplated the situation. He realized that Leping was making him play cards deliberately to drain his life force. Understanding that he needed to finish his cards quickly, Burs played a combination he called Flying Dragon, enduring the pain as it cost him a leg. Evel and Burs were both shocked, exclaiming in disbelief. Burs thought he was doomed for playing a combination that might offend the legendary hero, fearing death. Leping, observing the play, responded calmly, "Well played." Burs, seeing the gravity of the situation, hesitated and addressed Mr. Leping, expressing concern and confusion. Leping reassured him that he didn't want the cards and suggested Burs continue. Understanding the situation, Burs drew a card and revealed a 3. Evel, feeling overwhelmed, chose to pass her turn. Leping then declared it was his turn, playing a 10. Both Burs and Evel were unable to beat this card, conceding defeat. Leping, with a smirk, revealed a straight from 6 to Q, causing a massive magical wave to surge. Burs urged Evel to hold on, while Evel cried out for her father. As the intensity of the game increased, both Evel and Burs struggled to play their cards. Leping then announced the next challenge, which was 3 of a kind with a pair. Burs, realizing the futility, admitted that they couldn't beat it. Leping, insistent, expressed his desire to continue. Burs warned Evel against playing, explaining that it would cost her life force. Determined, Evel insisted she could no longer stay in the background and wanted to protect her father, declaring that she would play 3 of a kind with a pair. Burs anxiously asked Evel if she was all right, to which Evel assured him she was fine. Leping then emphasized the importance of protecting teammates, even if it meant sacrificing one's own cards, highlighting determination as the key element. Internally, Leping was impressed by how quickly Burs and Evel grasped the game. Burs, slightly puzzled, repeated the word determination. Leping responded that it was just too late. Evel, sensing something was off, called out to Mr. Leping. From a distance, Elizabeth observed the scene, feeling an ominous sensation. Leping revealed a pair of jokers, surprising both Evel and Burs. Elizabeth, recognizing the danger, cursed under her breath, realizing that Leping had summoned the Supreme Clown King, a 3-star demon. The Joker taunted Elizabeth, warning her to be careful as he might kill her, to which Elizabeth defiantly retorted, refusing to be looked down upon. Burs expressed his apologies to Evel, admitting he felt powerless. Evel reassured him, taking the blame upon herself for supposedly annoying Mr. Leping. Burs internally noted that his life force was rapidly depleting. Leping, concerned, asked if Uncle Burs was all right and pondered whether his injury had yet to heal. Realizing that Burs had been humoring him all along and merely allowing him to play, Leping felt naive for thinking he was doing well in the game. Leping stood up, thanked them for the fun, and suggested they get some rest before leaving with an apology for the trouble. Burs remarked on how enigmatic the legendary hero was. Evel, in disbelief, asked if they were still alive. Meanwhile, Elizabeth observed the scene and thought to herself how absurd it was, recognizing that playing cards with the two was just a ruse. The real intention, she believed, was to strike at the queen. In the morning, Leping asked Uncle Burs if he and Evel really didn't want to stay a few more days, mentioning that the fruits he had planted were almost ripe. Burs replied that they couldn't trouble them any longer and expressed deep gratitude for Leping's great kindness. Leping, modestly, asked him not to make it sound so serious. Burrs reassured Leping that they wouldn't say anything indiscreet after they left. Evel, touched, noted that Leping still wanted to give them such precious gifts, to which Leping casually responded that it was just ordinary barley tea. Leping then shook Burrs' hand and presented him with a card as a memento, which surprised Burrs. Leping explained that he could take it, as his own card skills were quite bad, and he wasn't suitable for it at all. Elizabeth, observing the exchange, thought to herself, urging them to hurry up and leave. Evel and Burrs then hurriedly departed, with Leping bidding them goodbye. Once they were gone, Elizabeth declared that everything was back to normal, and commanded Leping to go make some food for her, to which Leping enthusiastically agreed. As Burrs and Evel ran, Burrs urged them to keep running. Evel, exhausted, pleaded with her father to stop for a moment, as she couldn't continue. Burrs paused and reflected on their recent ordeals, the game test given by the legendary hero, and the threat from the Demon King. The previous night, Burrs remembered Elizabeth's stern command for them to leave the place the next day, and not to reveal any information about the Demon Queen and the legendary hero's presence. She had warned them that any attempt to go against her will would result in the curse mark on their necks taking their lives instantly. Burrs had respectfully agreed to her command, addressing her as Your Majesty. Burrs then shared with Evel the true history. The Demon Queen, who once ruled the world, and the legendary hero Leping were both weary of worldly conflicts and desired peace and solitude. As they continued, Evel mentioned that the place they were in seemed familiar. Burrs, looking around in surprise, realized that he might have run farther than he thought. From a distance, Wang Kai observed the situation, concluding that sending Burrs and Evel back would prevent them from troubling Master and the fierce woman any further. He noted that the corpses of the Dark Guild apostles were still present, and Burrs suggested that they should leave quickly, as there were likely many high-level demons nearby. Wang Kai noticed something approaching but dismissed it, deciding it was preferable to face that than to return and be beaten by the fierce woman. He then teleported away. Suddenly, the Dark Guild members appeared in front of Evel and Burrs. Burrs recognized the figure approaching as the Great Apostle, causing Evel to question what a Great Apostle was. The levels of the Dark Guild members were revealed. The Great Apostle was a great demon spirit, while the other apostles ranged from to demon spirits. In comparison, Burrs, who held the profession of a warrior, was at the level of a Grand Mage, and Evel, who was an archer, also held the level of a Grand Mage. The difference in power levels made the situation appear dire for Evel and Burrs. Evel noted the significant gap in strength between them and the Dark Guild, urging her father to run while she held them off. Burrs agreed that the strength difference was vast but reassured Evel that, after witnessing the realms of the legendary hero and Demon Queen, these apostles were nothing in comparison. Burrs, formerly known as the iron-hearted best of the heroes, admitted that he had become timid since Evel's mother returned to the elf tribe, taking Evel with him and avoiding conflicts. Burrs confessed that his approach of running away was wrong, and that escaping wouldn't solve their problems. He promised Evel that if they could overcome this difficulty, he would take her to the elf tribe to reunite with her mother, just as he had pursued her mother alone before. Burrs then initiated his card summoning, calling forth the 4-bomb arrow god descends. Evel was surprised and called out for her mother. Burrs urged Evel to play her card. Evel's mother appeared and launched arrows at the Dark Guild, but the Dark Guild members blocked the arrows and counterattacked. Evel cried out for her father, and Burrs, breathing heavily, realized that he needed to change his profession. This moment marked the birth of a new profession on the hero's continent, the Card Master. A week later, Leping marveled at the magical world, noting the success of his hybrid fruit breeding method. However, he felt that the joy of the harvest was incomplete without someone to share it with. Reflecting on his peaceful farming life, he realized that his heart grew restless when he had everything and came into contact with the outside world, making him want to see more. He mused about human nature's tendency to always want more, but concluded that he was too weak to pursue these desires. Elizabeth noticed his downcast mood and inquired about his thoughts. Leping confessed his desire to explore the outside world, but lamented his weakness. Elizabeth laughed and suggested that he was finally eager to leave, inviting him to accompany her on a trip. She thought to herself that the outside world was far different from his, but his attitude seemed too arrogant. Leping was thrilled and thought that having the protection of the Demon Queen made things different. Elizabeth, dismissing his excitement, told him to stop talking nonsense and change his clothes. Leping then changed into a new outfit, preparing for their journey. Elizabeth remarked that Leping's cooking and sewing skills were very impressive. Leping, proud of his abilities, affirmed that these were his specialties. Elizabeth then opened a transfer door and informed him that through it, they could reach the nearest town. Leping was amazed at the convenience of the skill, but stopped Elizabeth as she was about to leave. Leping expressed that he had a few questions before they went out. He asked if she wouldn't leave him alone, if she could keep her emotions stable, and if she could act low-key. He emphasized that without his permission, she couldn't leave. She needed to control her temper, and she shouldn't use magic recklessly, as it would ruin his fun of experiencing life as an ordinary person. Elizabeth acknowledged his conditions, saying she understood. Finally, Leping asked if she would come back with him after seeing the changes outside. Elizabeth assured him that she would. Surprised, Leping responded with a questioning, "Really?" Elizabeth told Leping that he would have to agree to one request from her. Surprised, Leping asked what the request was. Elizabeth explained that when they returned, she wanted him to make her a super deluxe assorted fruit pudding. Leping confirmed the request, albeit with some surprise, and assured her that there was no problem. Excitedly, he agreed to head out. Elizabeth stepped into the transfer door, followed closely by Leping and lastly by Wang Kai. They found themselves in the beautiful city of Boer Town, a neutral area. Leping was amazed by the place, comparing it to stepping into another world. He eagerly pointed out an equipment shop and ingredients being sold, though he noted that the pork seemed quite ordinary. Elizabeth observed that despite 500 years having passed, the changes in the outside world did not seem significant. Leping agreed, noting that it didn't seem as chaotic as Uncle Burrs had described. Elizabeth explained that the relative peace and order in the world were because she had established a strong foundation during her rule. In the original world, various forces were in conflict, creating a chaotic situation. She used her absolute strength to suppress these forces and established a set of rules ensuring equality for all. Elizabeth asserted that she, not Leping, was the true savior of the world, dismissing his status as the legendary hero and claiming that he did not acknowledge her past achievements. Meanwhile, Leping admired the delicate stitching on a piece of clothing, asking the girl selling it if she had made it. The girl confirmed that she had, and offered it to him at a lower price if he liked it. Suddenly, a beastly figure appeared, demanding to know who had given her permission to set up a stall there. He accused her of owing protection money to his gang on behalf of her church, and berated her for daring to set up a stall in his territory. The scene was interrupted by the cries of young children calling out for their sister Annie. The beast snarled at Annie, accusing her of never protecting them, and demanding to know why they should pay protection money. He asserted that the street now belonged to the beast gang, and that anyone wishing to survive there had to provide monthly tributes. Annie, trying to stand her ground, argued that the church belonged to the nun, warning that the beast would be in trouble once she returned. Unmoved, the beast dismissed her threats, claiming she was clueless about the situation. He threatened to drive the orphans away and tear down the church. Leping, witnessing the scene, stepped in and told the beast to stop. The beast turned to him, asking what he intended to do. Elizabeth, however, intervened, telling Leping to mind his own business, and questioning if he really wanted to get involved with these ordinary people again. Leping, feeling desperate, called out to Elizabeth for help, but she refused, saying she didn't want to stoop to his level. The beast, growing impatient, demanded to know what Leping's intentions were. Leping then tried to rally the onlookers, pointing out that the beast was bullying a little girl and calling for everyone to condemn him. The beast laughed mockingly, confident that no one would dare to oppose him, as everyone on the street was familiar with the beast gang's reputation. He taunted Leping, noting that he was clearly a foreigner from the south based on his clothes, and made a lewd comment about Elizabeth. In an attempt to defuse the situation, Leping offered to share some local specialties from his backpack, hoping to placate the gang. The beast ordered his gang to beat up Leping and capture Elizabeth. Elizabeth, unfazed, warned that no one was qualified to imprison her, and accused them of stepping on the tiger's tail. The beast was startled as the weather suddenly changed, indicating Elizabeth's immense power. Leping, concerned about the town's safety, pleaded with Elizabeth to calm down and not destroy the town. He urged her to scare the gang rather than fight ordinary people. Elizabeth, with a hint of disdain, agreed to spare the beast because of Leping's request. Annie, observing the scene, was in awe of Elizabeth's powerful magic. The beast, looking up at the sky, noticed the weather changing and wondered if it was raining, clearly shaken by the sudden shift. The beast, slightly nervous, questioned if Leping and Elizabeth were truly standing up for the church orphans. Leping proposed a deal, asking how much money the beast wanted for protection. The beast demanded 10 gold coins for 2 months. Elizabeth scoffed at the small amount, calling the beast foolish for making a big fuss over it. Leping then asked Elizabeth if she had plenty of gold coins, to which she responded confidently that she had so many treasures that she couldn't even count them all. Leping asked Elizabeth if she could lend him some gold coins, promising to repay her by selling the vegetables from his home. Elizabeth dismissed the idea, calling him an idiot for wanting to trade her food for such trivial things, and noted that she hadn't brought any treasures when she came to find him. The beast, growing impatient, asked if they had any gold coins. Leping suggested using the local products in his bag as a substitute. This angered the beast, who accused Leping of playing games with him. Just then, a pouch of gold coins landed on the beast, who angrily demanded to know who threw it. Hawthorne Theres, from the Sword Saint Guild, stepped forward and ordered the beast to stop harassing his friend and leave once he got the money. Recognizing Hawthorne, the beast laughed and decided to back off, acknowledging the reputation of the Sword Saint Guild, also known as Thunder Seabuckthorn. Annie thanked everyone for their help and said they should leave, warning that they wouldn't be so lucky next month. Leping offered some fruits as a gesture of gratitude, asking them to accept it if they didn't mind. Hawthorne Theres assured them it was a trivial matter and suggested they partner on something. He proposed they move to another location to discuss it, mentioning that it could also help with their financial issues. Elizabeth, however, expressed disinterest and urged Leping to leave with her. Leping, still eager to find out more, insisted that they should at least hear what Hawthorne had to say, given that someone had just helped them out. A young boy asked Sister Annie if she was going out. Annie responded that she was, instructing him and the others to return to the church first, assuring them she would be back soon. They arrived at a pub, where Hawthorne Theres advised everyone to stay close to him once they entered. Annie, Elizabeth, and Leping followed Hawthorne inside. A man in the pub made a lewd comment about the men around Elizabeth, suggesting she come over to him instead. Elizabeth, visibly angry, demanded the man repeat what he said, blaming the situation on Leping's insistence on visiting the pub and wasting her time. Leping noted that they had arrived, and Hawthorne Theres guided them to a private room, assuring them that no outsiders would disturb them there. The girls greeted Hawthorne Theres with relief and excitement, expressing their concern for him and their eagerness to accompany him in the future. They asked him to pat their heads, showing affection and a desire to be included next time. Hawthorne Theres then mentioned that he had a few wives, which left Leping shocked. As everyone settled in, Hawthorne proceeded to introduce his wives: Gasha, a shield warrior; Lolo, an assassin; Glee, a mage; and Gilia, an elven archer. Leping remarked that he had previously met someone with an elven bloodline. Elizabeth, however, was impatient and stated that small talk was a waste of time. She wanted to know their business and to leave. Gasha expressed annoyance at Elizabeth's attitude, questioning what the issue was with her. Elizabeth responded by asserting her own identity as a queen and challenged them to voice any objections. Lolo found Elizabeth's self-identification as a queen amusing and questioned her mental state. Gilia observed Elizabeth's ears and concluded that she must be a lowly half-breed with minimal elven heritage, wondering what she was doing in their presence. Elizabeth declared that if someone continued to bring destruction upon themselves, they should not blame her. Leping then presented a pudding, expressing relief that he had come prepared. He explained that they had traveled from a distant, nameless tribe. Elizabeth was the princess of that tribe, and he was her servant. Lolo remarked that Elizabeth's unusual behavior and manners made sense, given that she was a tribal princess unfamiliar with the world. Glee noted that Elizabeth's name and origin as a member of the uncivilized tribe that worships the demon queen in the demon realm were now clear, finding it amusing. Leping explained that since it was Elizabeth's first time out, she was still adjusting to cultural differences, hoping this explanation would be reasonable. Hawthorne Theres then shifted the focus back to the matter at hand, inviting them to join him in exploring a treasure dungeon. He reflected on the formidable demonic power he had sensed earlier, and wondered if it was something beyond the capabilities of a remote tribal princess. Leping expressed curiosity about the treasure dungeon, asking Annie for clarification. Annie described treasure dungeons as magical spaces created by ancient, powerful beings to conceal valuable items, and noted that they were typically well hidden. Leping responded with understanding. Hawthorne Theres mentioned that he had put significant effort into finding out about the treasure dungeon. He explained that in order to open the barrier to the dungeon, they needed a total of 8 people. Leping realized that Hawthorne needed their presence to meet this requirement. Annie counted the number of people present and confirmed that they made up the necessary number, but expressed distress at the idea of going. She conveyed to Leping that treasure dungeons were notoriously challenging, and, as a mere 4-star magician, she feared for her safety, feeling that she might die if she participated. Leping expressed his lack of knowledge about magic levels and their significance. Hawthorne Theries reassured him that his role was mainly to help meet the required number of people for the dungeon. He promised that the team would handle the internal battle and assured Leping that the treasure found would be valuable, estimating it could amount to tens of thousands of gold coins. Gasha noted that Hawthorne Theries had recently repelled several dark apostles who attempted to capture Gilia, proving his considerable strength. Annie expressed excitement about the potential financial relief from the treasure, believing it could solve the church's financial problems. Leping suggested to Elizabeth that they help Hawthorne Theries meet the required number of participants. Elizabeth reluctantly agreed, emphasizing her desire to enjoy her pudding without further interruption. Leping noticed a crystal ball on the table and inquired about it. Hawthorne Theries explained that it was Glee's magic measurement crystal ball, which could assess one's magic level by simply placing a hand on it. Leping was informed that the crystal ball belonged to Glee and could measure magic levels by simply placing a hand on it. Annie explained that the crystal ball would display the magic level as a number, with 8,769 indicating the demon's spirit level. Hawthorne Theries shared that his own magic level was 4-star demon spirit, and that his wives were all grand mage at 4 or 5 stars. He mentioned that knowing each other's levels would improve their teamwork. Annie tried the crystal ball, but the result was not impressive. Glee remarked that her own level was much higher when she first changed her job. Annie expressed regret over her stagnant magic level. Leping decided to try the crystal ball, confident that his potential as a legendary hero would yield a promising result. Leping placed his hand on the crystal ball, which registered a result of 0. Hawthorne Theries expressed disbelief, noting that even a pure martial artist wouldn't have such a low reading. Leping reflected on his life of farming, and concluded that he was destined to have no magic. He then offered the fruit he had harvested recently, claiming his skill in farming. Glee dismissed the fruit, showing a lack of interest and implying that Leping was a typical bumpkin. Lolo questioned whether Leping was truly just an ordinary servant. Hawthorne Theries then invited Princess Elizabeth to try the crystal ball. Elizabeth, though annoyed by the request to engage with what she considered ignorant mortals, placed her hand on the ball, and powerful energy emerged from it. Leping considered the potential uproar if Elizabeth's identity as the Demon Queen were exposed. He then called out to her, and Elizabeth assured him that she understood the situation. She decided to play along, stating that it was rare for her to come out. Annie was astonished by the result, noting that Elizabeth's strength was on par with a demon spirit level, just like her brother. Glee expressed disbelief at Elizabeth also being a 4-star demon spirit. Hawthorne Theries praised Elizabeth, acknowledging her strength as fitting for a princess, and expressing optimism that her participation would greatly increase their chances of obtaining the treasure. Annie inquired about how they would get to the treasure dungeon. Leping, contemplating the opportunity, thought it was fortunate to encounter such a good thing during his second outing, and that he could learn from them. Hawthorne Theries then directed Glee to open the teleportation scroll. As the teleportation process began, Leping felt dizzy and struggled to keep his balance. Annie sensed a strange aura and remarked on it. Hawthorne Theries, determined to proceed without delay, urged the group to enter the treasure dungeon. Elizabeth expressed her desire to go home and urged Leping to leave with her. Another girl, frustrated, questioned Elizabeth's change of heart at the last minute. Glee pointed out the significant amount of crystals and magic power required to create the teleportation scroll. Gilia, determined, warned Elizabeth that if she didn't enter, she shouldn't think about leaving either. Elizabeth, undeterred, challenged Gilia to try and stop her. Leping urged everyone to stay calm and listen to him for a moment, pleading with Elizabeth to take him to see the cave since they were already there. Annie pointed out to Princess Elizabeth that inside the cave, there was a magic power very similar to hers. Leping, confused, asked for clarification. Hawthorne Theries politely interjected, assuring Elizabeth that no matter what danger they might encounter inside, he would protect her. He requested that she go in with him. Elizabeth, agreeing to play along since she rarely got the chance to go out, instructed them to hurry up and follow her. Leping noticed that the barrier had closed again, and wondered if they could go back the way they came. Elizabeth explained that in this special magic space, leaving by transfer magic was impossible, unless one was stronger than the person who set up the barrier. She emphasized that they couldn't leave unless they found the target location and met the barrier setter's requirements. Glee, confident in their master's abilities, expressed certainty that they would get what they came for. Gasha cautioned Glee not to talk nonsense. Annie inquired about the meaning behind the phrase, "that thing," from Sister Delia. Delia, with a chuckle, clarified that it referred to gold coins and treasure, assuring Annie that she wouldn't be left out. Leping, noticing the forks ahead of them, asked which path they should take, pondering that with Elizabeth's support, they would have no problem. Lolo suggested to Hawthorne Theris whether they needed to split up, to which he responded that it wasn't necessary yet, and instructed Glee to use a specific move. Glee, obeying, summoned a powerful aura from her sword, confident that she could quickly find the shortest route to the treasure. Elizabeth, however, muttered under her breath, calling the move ignorant.